Hello, hello. Welcome to Microsoft Fury 3. This is a very, very early Windows 95 game, which I played a lot as a kid, although usually I had a flight stick for it. Instead, I'll be playing with my keyboard, which I'll explain more of how that works in a moment. Let me just get the countdown going, and then start up a new game. 2, 1, and go. So, Fury 3 is a fairly straightforward, like flight sim space combat kind of game. You fly from objective to objective and do what you're told to. You destroy targets, you hit various checkpoints and waypoints, you enter tunnels and destroy enemies, and you also defeat a bunch of bosses. Okay. So what I'm doing control-wise is all of my directional inputs are on the arrow keys, and like most of the keyboard controls can just be remapped to whatever, which is exactly what I did because the default ones were confusing and terrifying. Right, so the compass in the upper right, the way that works is north on that compass is always the direction of your next target. So navigation, a little confusing at first if you don't know that, and also confusing when enemies do that to me. That's like one of the biggest sources of time loss in this game, is just enemies running into you, and when they run into you, they can cause you to turn in a random direction and end up in a random orientation. So like you saw there, I got hit and wound up getting completely turned around, and not only that, I wound up upside down. So that is a lingering source of frustration for basically the entire run. Some of these targets that I'm dealing with right now are ones that I can see from... Alright. There you are. They're ones that you can see their shadows spawn in before the rest of them. So what you can do is just look for that, and then take a shot before they even appear. Now I'm kind of going out of my way to get certain items. I hit the microphone, sorry. And the reason I'm doing that is hoarding is a major part of being able to make the run work. Because, like, you need decent weapons to be able to, for example, fight the guardians that we're going to face later on. Okay, this should be the final checkpoint before mission complete. There we go. Oh yeah, did I mention? It's not just when enemies shoot you that you can end up in a random orientation. It's when you take any form of damage. So if you run into a wall, you can end up facing a direction that makes absolutely no sense. So what I'm doing with this side of the keyboard is I have W and S mapped to throttle up and throttle down, and A and D will roll left and right. And I'm mainly going to use that to right myself if I get turned a certain way. Sorry, I just realized that was a shield power-up. That doesn't help me. You're probably looking at my movement speed right now, and if you know how long this game is, you're probably thinking, this is going to take very, very long before we see anything approaching the end of the game. There is one thing in this level that actually speeds that process up. And I'm going to explain what that is when we get to it. But this is what the I almost called it turbo tunnel. This is what the tunnel sections look like. You are always forced to move forward in these, and you cannot come to a complete stop. And I call this turbo tunnel because this is the first place where you find the turbo. And I'm actually going to slow down a bit, and I'm basically going to keep my throttle all the way down and just use turbo to move forward now. This is the most efficient method of movement in the game. But it also means I'm going to be continually veering off for these item pods because a lot of them are going to drop turbo. Turbo is very easy to burn through. So I'm going to be going after it several times over the course of the run. Like, as you can see, this is significantly faster than full throttle movement, which is what I was doing before this point. Oh, got another item pod. Really, if any of these pods drop something that isn't a shield, it'll be worth it. All of the pods usually have set items. However, because there are so many over the course of the run, it's incredibly hard to keep track of what all of them are. That said, the majority of them are either turbo or shields. So unless I know for sure that one of them is going to have a shield in it, I will usually just go for it and see what happens. Something I'll try to do from time to time is line up the targets so my shots just go directly to the next thing I'm supposed to destroy. Usually that requires like taking a certain angle into the... Sorry, I just saw these. Excellent. So you're probably saying, well, you're over 800 for turbo. Isn't that enough? No, it's not. Because this is a pretty lengthy game. So the turbo's not going to stop for a while. Also, when you're using turbo, you cannot shoot. Which is why I kind of have to do this stop and go motion anytime I want to destroy one of these pods. Rapid fire lasers. Okay, that's another item that I'm going to be farming a lot of. I'm basically going to farm rapid fire lasers to the point that they are going to be my main weapon. And for good reason. They basically function like the lasers that I have now, except they're stronger, and as the name suggests, they're rapid fire. Specifically, you shoot like 4 lasers at once instead of this gun, which shoots one alternating laser from each side. Alright, this is where we're going to start getting into some of the hidden tunnels. And by the way, entering tunnels in this game can be a little nerve-wracking. Some of them are like just wider than your ship. There is a third-person view in this game, but I don't use it because it makes it harder to tell what's in front of you. Alright, first boss. I'm going to switch to my rapid fires. And I have to destroy all of these red button things. Because the thing about each of these guardians, well, most of these guardians, is that they will have... hold on. Okay, he's dead. That's a really easy first Guardian. But, oh no! It blocked me out. Okay, there we go. So the thing about each of the Guardians is they're going to have some of those like red button looking things around them. And those are actually very important, because if you don't destroy those and just try going straight for the Guardian, you're not going to do any damage to it. You have to destroy those before you can even attempt to kill those things. Alright, mission complete. So that is going to do it for this world. On to the next. This is when I'm going to start using rapid-fire lasers, like just my default weapon. So things are going to start getting a little more hectic in this stage. Not just because of the turbo, but also because more enemies are going to have a wider variety of weapons to use against me. Like these guys in particular, once they take off, they'll start launching missiles at you. And if I remember correctly, it's the Viper-type missiles. Vipers in this game are excellent to have a solid stockpile of, because they have heat-seeking properties. Not all of the missiles in this game do that, so very handy for if you're facing a boss where you don't know what their weak point is, because it'll just home in on the one part that'll damage them. And I got flipped upside down by taking that damage. There we go. It's a nice quick first mission, but most of the other missions are not going to be like that. Alright, so this is going to lead to another tunnel section. You're supposed to wait until a certain time to be able to maneuver past the fan blades, but for whatever reason, I just can't get that to work, so I'll usually just charge straight into them, and whatever happens, happens. Whoa! I think I just crashed into part of the environment. Anyway. There are items like dispersion cannons, which will power up your base weapon, and that's kind of what's happening right now, because I'm not alternating my shots, and I'm shooting 4 lasers instead of 2. You have a finite amount of that, but when that happens, it helps you conserve ammo for things like the rapid-fire lasers. And that is a very nice weapon to have. The 3F missile is basically a screen wipe. And there's one boss in particular where that is going to be particularly useful. Yeah, using turbo, you can swoop in on these targets, and even if they're surrounded by those missile-launching enemies, usually you'll be in and destroy the target before they have a chance to take off and take any shots against you. Now, enemy hitboxes in the tunnel are a lot more generous than like anywhere else in the game. So this is where I usually start using the dispersion cannons, because they basically act like shotguns, shotgun shells, I should say. They just kind of fly everywhere. So you're almost guaranteed to... that caused me to not get those missiles. That's pretty bad. But I can do this. Now I don't have to worry about anything for the rest of the stage. Oh, that's one thing too, is sometimes you can just fly into the target and damage it. I try not to make a habit of that, but it is something that's a possibility. Alright, setting up for another tunnel. Usually I'll try to approach at a certain angle where I'm just coming down on top of it. Because that's like the way to almost guarantee that you'll end up going where you want to go. Sorry, almost missed the turbo. It seems like I'm just kind of like haphazardly rushing through this, but you really do want to make sure you do not miss any turbo pickups for a good while. I know someone out there is thinking, like, I'm over 700 with the turbo. Why is this a problem? Trust me, just be patient and you'll understand why it can become a problem later in the run. Alright, so that's going to take us to this boss, who, unlike the others, is just out in the open. Now, the downside of him being out in the open like this is, yes, I can fly around more effectively evading his shots, but it also means I'm going to have a bunch of these flunkies flying around. So what I'm going to do is load up my triple F missile, zap all of them, and then use my big friendly missiles to take out the enemy, because they're going to lock on to his weak spot. They're not actually called big friendly missiles. Once I just got that in my head, I couldn't call them anything but big friendly missiles. On to Ares. And again, I'm going to go out of my way to grab some of these items. This will just keep them off my back for a little bit. Alright, so this is around the time where enemies will start dropping more useful things. I mean, they already dropped shield boosts, but now you're going to get into the territory where sometimes enemies will have a chance to drop things like turbos, rapid-fire lasers, missiles, stuff like that. That said, I try not to do that, because it's kind of random and pretty time-consuming, and just overall not very consistent. One thing that's kind of weird about this level in particular is it's one of the only levels that doesn't really have a cloud line. All the other levels usually have a cloud line you can fly above, and then duck below, or just do whatever with it, but not this stage. So this is where some of the targets can get a little confusing if you don't know what to look for. I had to destroy the smaller targets before there, but this time I didn't have to. Basically, if you see them grouped around a large tower like that, they aren't going to be a target. But if they are, then you will have to destroy them. There he goes. Sometimes the hitbox is generous, and sometimes it isn't. I always try to swing out to the side a little bit for those, because coming in at too flat of an angle will almost always result in just bouncing off the wall and having to back out and try again. Okay, this is one of the more complex tunnel sections because you're going to have a few spaces where it opens up like this and then you duck into another tunnel. However, once you know what to look for the tunnels, it's pretty simple to figure out where you're going. Like when I first played this, I got to this section and I just could not find the tunnel. Part of that may have been my color blindness because unless you're like right on top of the tunnel, it's very easy to just not see where they are. Okay, I'll go for this one. And that one. Back to the middle. Refresh the shield. Good. There you are. See, even after playing this, it's sometimes a little hard to tell where the tunnel is. Okay, dead-on missiles are nice to have. They're not the strongest missiles, but I mean they do a decent amount of damage. The main problem with them is just they aren't heat-seeking, which makes them not quite as good as the other missiles you can get in this game. So this is just like the other boss, except instead of the red lights, you've got to destroy these things. I'm gonna swap over to my big friendly missiles. Those easily do the most damage. Like, these are my dead-on missiles. They are not doing nearly as much damage per clip. But they get the job done. Hopping back into the tunnel. I can only imagine what it must feel like watching this if you're someone who gets motion sick really easy. Oh yeah, that's another thing. It looks like you can fly above that. You really can't. Excellent. So, usually there's one guardian per level, but this is where it starts throwing multiple levels with guardians on the same planet. And that's actually going to lead to a point in the game where I have to do something very specific to avoid utter catastrophe and the run being killed. Oh, I should note, it is possible to just boost and then bounce off the walls the entire way down this tunnel. But that, even on easy, will do a massive amount of damage in the end. So, Like, even with shield power-ups being dropped by enemies and occasionally just appearing at the end like that, still not a good idea. Okay, got the checkpoints. And the tunnel is here. Oh, I got kicked out again. Bypassed a missile pickup. That's no good. Alright. Next boss. This is going to be a little different from the other ones. Yes, you're still destroying all these things so that you can make sure you can damage the boss. However, instead of swapping to the missiles, I'm going to just stick with my rapid-fire lasers. Because this will do about the same amount of DPS as swapping to any of my missiles, even if I had big friendlies. Oh, something that makes aiming a little annoying in this game is that if you're just floating free, your ship will start drifting to the left. I'm not sure why it happens, but it happens. Okay, blasted a hole in the wall. Excellent. New Croy. This can be a very troublesome stage for multiple reasons. The first is the cityscape. When you have to dive down through the streets, not only makes navigation a little slower, but you can also end up getting like swarmed by enemies from above. On the other hand, there are a bunch of rooftop sentries around this area. So, like, there's no good place to, like, hang out in this area, because you're going to get shot regardless of what you do. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward. It's going to get less so with some of these other objectives. Like, yes, you're destroying radar dishes again, but if you just destroy the radar dishes and fly off, you don't get a target destroyed message, because you have to destroy these things that are hanging out on the ground as well. That was a very generous enemy dropping that turbo for me. Thank you. And rapid fires. Very giving mood in this run. They usually don't drop that often. Alright, so, this level can be a problem child of sorts. For one very particular reason. one very particular run-killing reason, which I will explain when we get to it. Okay, so I am going to stop and save the game. And then I am going to resume saved game. Alright. So, I will explain in a moment why I did that, but it's something that if I didn't do it, the game could crash. And the run would be dead. I mean, there are level skip cheats in this game, and technically it's perfectly fine for the leaderboard to just skip back to where you were and continue the run. However, if you do that, you lose like all of the items that you just spent all that time gathering. So, far, far from the most ideal method. Also, I'm pretty sure I was upside down. Anyway. Now, I can't use triple F missiles against bosses, because it won't actually damage them. So those are pretty much going to be exclusively for outdoor fights. And this is just a straight shot to the end. Okay, so the reason that I did that save and load thing, which is very cumbersome with how this game handles that, if I don't do that, the game will get really confused and crash. Specifically, there's some kind of bug in this game where even though you destroy that guardian, the game has it in its head that there is still a guardian on the map. And it goes, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be able to leave until the guardian is destroyed. But you're leaving the level, and then it just crashes. Now, these targets that I'm going after, these little hut things, incredibly difficult to see from a distance. That's part of why I'm flying so low to the ground, is just to be able to see them sticking out from the rest of the environment. Ah! So I have to be careful. This is actually one of the worlds where it's shockingly easy to run out of turbo. Because you'll just go through a dry spell where it just will not drop. Okay, these can be a little tricky, because sometimes the game will just want you to destroy the transport vehicles. Sometimes it'll want you to destroy the transport vehicles as well as the rest of the convoy. It can be a little frustrating when you like do a clean fly through, take out all the transports, and then the game makes you go back and do like everything else. Alright. Turning can be a little cumbersome in this game. What the game really wants you to do is like do a roll with the turn. But that's really awkward to do. Alright, going into this tunnel section. Excellent. That was pretty clean. Okay, I'm out of dispersion cannons, but that is alright. Got him. Alright, so we're going to be coming up on, assuming I'm not misremembering things, another boss relatively soon. Yes, yes, yes. You can never have too much turbo in this game. Alright, so this is going to be the next boss. This is another one of those instances where I used the triple F bomb to clear out all of the regular units. And that made the fight really simple. And this is going to be another multi-guardian planet. In fact, most of the planets from here on out are going to be multi-guardian. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I want to switch over to my regular weapons because my rapid fires are actually getting a little low, which I cannot afford to have that happen too much in the latter parts of the stage. So, second verse, same as the first. This time, though, we're destroying the sarcophagus in each corner. Okay, I got Vipers. So his weak point is his feet. Little unusual, I know, but it actually makes it a bit easier to avoid taking damage from this guy, so I'm not going to complain. Now, this tunnel, I remember the first time I played this game, I could not see that tunnel at all. And I got lost in that room for a solid 2 minutes, even with the compass telling me where it was. Sorry, I wanted to make absolutely sure I did not miss any of those turbos. So this is a fun little planet where rocks fall and you die. I mean, you take damage, but there's the potential of dying. Oh yeah, there are going to be force fields like that from now on. Usually they appear one right after the other. So if you charge through the first one and take damage, you'll end up not taking damage from the second one. Because there is a bit of, like, invulnerability frames after you get hit the first time. Oh, God. So these targets can be really annoying. Not just because I'm getting bounced all over the place, but because those things can take off, and they will just keep going skyward. So let's say you miss one, and you go back to where the compass is pointing, you just won't see anything because it is much, much further above you. And you do have to chase it down and destroy it, otherwise you won't be able to complete the level. Sorry, I'm trying to gauge when I should take damage and when I shouldn't. Which, I mean, taking damage is unavoidable in this game for the most part. Alright, mission complete. Now, time to turn and burn. Come on. If you get to a certain height, those rocks will just appear directly on top of you, which... that's why I'm kind of flying low to the ground. You might think you could possibly just fly high enough that they won't be an issue, but nope, that's not going to happen. This exit is always a mess. You know, I will give this level this much. At least in the tunnels, like, you can tell without seeing an enemy or a power-up whether you're right side up or not. I appreciate that. Oh, damn, that was clean. I usually do not get those. Hey, now I can just do this. Thank you, invincibility power-ups. Oh, that's wonderful. That's my favorite part of the entire run. Just being able to hold turbo through that entire section. Okay, I have a little health to play with here. Alright, got my 3F missile back. There won't be much opportunity to use that much anymore. But it's still nice to have, just in case like a bunch of enemies end up swarming you, and like it's hard to just move in a straight line. Alright, we got one more tunnel. And this is going to be a doozy. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Where am I? So this boss can be really confusing at first. However, if I get just aligned right, you gotta get like right on top of this boss to be able to have any of your heat-seeking weaponry hit him. Coming in from above sort of helps, but not really. Because there's, like, the missiles can lock onto all of the projectiles he's shooting. Also, the tunnel to escape is behind a bunch of explosions, which I think is kind of a rude move, to say the least. Even if they do give me a bunch of turbos and vipers afterward. Okay, second to last world. This is the not under the sea world. And this is also the point where it becomes apparent why I was doing so much turbo farming earlier. Basically, those item pods that were spawning around different parts of the world, those are going to start showing up less and less. Man, I don't know how I got that far up. Okay, there's one. What's very nice about this level is that all the targets are the same thing. There's zero ambiguity about what you are supposed to destroy. Okay, this is where things get a little more complex. Because now you got things you're fighting above the cloud line. And you have to shoot a certain thing from a certain angle. Because if you don't, a bunch of your shots just aren't going to register. You've got to hit the tower things on all of these guys. And you have to do it usually from above or level with the enemy. Because otherwise, there's a chance that the hitbox will not register your shots. Excellent. This is going pretty smoothly so far. Yeah, that's one problem with the stages. The cloud line is very low to the ground. So if you're not careful, like when you try diving below the cloud line again, you can just end up slamming into the ground over and over. This level's much simpler, because all of your targets are in this valley. So you can just follow this for the entire length of the stage. Assuming enemies don't try to knock you off the path. And in we go. I missed those rapid fires. Okay, I can at least fall back on those. Yeah. As we get into the latter parts of this game, it'll become apparent how good or bad of a job I've done conserving like all the items that I need, like turbo, missiles, rapid fire lasers. And this boss in particular can be extremely annoying because it actually does a fairly good job tracking you with its shots. As such, if I'm not careful and I get too greedy with my damage output, he can actually end up like doing a significant amount of damage to me. Okay, one more pass should do it. There we go. Crap, I'm gonna hit that. Okay, I managed to avoid it. It's a little bit of playing with fire, going out of that level without getting one of the shield pickups, but made it through just fine. So welcome to the final world of the game. I'm actually gonna move straight up and then come in hot. Perfect. So my turbo count should be okay for this stage. So the big problem here is it's going to be a while before I see any more turbo pickups. So the turbo I have now is the turbo that I'm going to have to roll with for a fairly long time. Crap, I got myself turned around. Navigation is like the #1 reason you'll lose time on a run in this game. Either for things that are in your control or things that are completely beyond your control, like being turned around and spun upside down. Alright, jump zone is going to be closer to the ground, so I'll get nice and low. There we are. So, just a couple more missions to go. This is going to be a point where any of these I see are going to have like shields or missiles, and that's it. I'm still going to go for them because the missiles can be useful for the final boss in particular. Turned upside down again. Come on. There you go. That was a shield power-up. I just have that one memorized. Okay, relatively clean tunnel entry. Alright, this will let me save some of my rapid fires. Alright, here we go. We're just about wrapping this up. That's one of the few turbo power-ups left until the boss. Or at least one of the less out-of-the-way ones. Oh, I took off without getting rid of some of these first. Should just be a couple more targets, and then we're going to go diving into tunnels again. I thought I was far away to not do that. Whatever. Alright, so this is the home stretch. Well, the home stretch before the home stretch. Here we are, this is the final boss. So, same formula as before, take out all these, and the one that's in the middle. It's very easy to forget about that one. And just let them have the big friendlies. And then finish them off with the rapid fires. Up, you turn me around. Alright, so that is it for this tunnel. Just gotta fight my way out of here. I'm gonna be a little more aggressive because it is the ending. And I actually do have a decent amount of turbo, which I'm not used to having. So time is going to come up really soon. It'll be when the congratulations screen appears. That's it. Oh my god. That was a new record. Why does this keep happening in submissions? Anyway, that's Fury 3. My wrist on my left hand really hurts after doing that for an hour. But, yeah. I hope this strikes your fancy. I'd love to be able to play this in a marathon. Because, this is... I mean, I consider it a bit of a forgotten gem. I don't really see many people talking about this. I'm currently the only runner for this game. But, yeah. GOG.com, get on this.